Welcome back, my friends. Another episode of Mes Que Un Podcast. I'm here with Buga. Pablo is in the stadium right now. We're fresh off the big win from Barcelona, 3-0 over Rayo. I know it's a little bit anticlimactic. I know disappointing end of the season for some. We got one match left. Barcelona with this victory confirm second place. So we'll talk about what that means for the club. We can't skip past Laporta versus Xavi. What is going on there with the back and forth? Will Xavi still be here as the manager for Barcelona next season? We will discuss some of the transfer rumors, particularly around Xavi Simons. Will he be coming back to Barcelona? We'll talk about all that and more. Before we get into things, make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you can participate in the conversation. Leave your comments down below. We want to hear your thoughts, your opinions. Ask your questions. We love to hear those and respond to them. Keep the conversation going throughout the week. Now, with the intro out of the way, Buga, how are we feeling after this match against Rayo?
I think anticlimactic is the best way to put it. It's like,
yes, sir.
It still gets me excited to see Barcelona score goals, play the way that they do, have Pedri score a brace coming off the bench. João Felix with incredible, his dribbling, all of that. It's still up to scratch. I still love it. I still like it. However, I still think that when I watch this game, I watch this team, we are very affected by the injuries, or we're very affected by the injuries because we still are not up to scratch. And the two is that, dude, I'm not too sure whether to hold Xavi accountable or not, but this team's performances, it might just be the end of the season, that we are no longer competing for anything. But the image that we show is simply not up to scratch. It's not up to the level. It's not to the expectation that I sort of want to have from this team. And I'm honestly just, same as the player, probably looking into the next season, what we can do about it, what we can improve, what we can change. And I think that's going to be the whole theme of this episode, right? Because there's plenty of stuff that has developed in the past few days. And it's been quite a roller coaster, literally. And I'm ready for it.
Yeah. Talking about Laporta-Xavi, of course. So we'll get to that. Yeah, it was hard to get excited for this match. I actually missed the first goal because I was watching the end of the Premier League matches, watching the celebrations, Man City crowned champions, of course. And I was like, oh, crap, that's right. Barcelona are playing. So I flipped over. But that's kind of what happens at the end of the season. No trophies left to play for. It is what it is. Real Madrid champions. But securing second place does have a financial impact in two ways. One, we get to play in Supercopa. So got that going on. And then two, depending on where you are in the table, that has an influence on how much your club gets paid for the broadcasting rights that La Liga has. So second place finish, I know it feels disappointing, like I said, but we needed to do it, got the job done. And against Rayo, a team that we last couple of years typically have struggled against, a couple of 1-0 victories, a couple of draws here and there. So I was at least happy with the performance, happy that we got the job done, despite a lack of enthusiasm, maybe, like you said.
There was UFC, right, in the past few days? Because I think they were missing one fight, one mainline show. Xavi versus Laporta, 100%.
Yeah, so if you haven't been keeping up with the headlines, it's basically looked like Xavi announces he's leaving in, January. The club goes on this amazing 10, 11, 12 match unbeaten streak. We get knocked out of Champions League because of a horrendous performance at home when we should have been through. We don't need to get back into the details of that. Xavi then announces, okay, I'm staying. Then a press conference later where maybe he was a little bit too honest about Barcelona's financial situation. And all of a sudden there's a report that Laporta's furious. He feels betrayed by Xavi. He's going to have a conversation and sack him when the season's over. What of this is true? What of this is nonsense, Buga? Where are you at with things?
Dude, this club, it makes it so difficult to stay calm, dude. I have had to put Twitter back into like my startup menu when I turn on my PC, because I just want to keep up with the news and turn on notifications and stuff like that, because it's ridiculous. It's honestly very, very mad how these things are going on and developing. And I'm not too sure actually now who makes the decisions. That's for me the most worrying part of it all. Because when you think about why we wanted Xavi to stay, wasn't Laporta the main fact of it? Like, he was the
Yeah.
main one going, hey, I want to keep Xavi. He's the best one for our club. Even when they were asking him, what about a new manager? What are you going to bring to the table? No, I'm going to resolve Xavi's situation here. I want him to stay. That came out of his mouth several times during this period where we actually were playing very good. And now that we turn on the table, we keep Xavi. I was like, fine, that's a decision to make. Cool. I'm nice with it. But what the hell is going on now? Now you want to sack him because of the declarations that he made about Vitor Roque and about the club. And realistically, when I'm being honest, like, I'm thinking either two things happen. The one is this complete campaign by Real Madrid and whatnot trying to destabilize Barcelona. But the most realistic option is that probably Xavi and Laporta talked about this inside closed doors, and they were saying, okay, Laporta was like, okay, I need you to believe in this team. I need you to, I don't know, like, show support, be critical. You can speak the truth, but you have to be critical. You have to be that. And Xavi was like, okay, fair play, I'll do it. I'll stick by my team and stuff like that. And then this comes out, and that's where I think potentially Laporta and Xavi get mad, because although the communication is that we're gonna speak the truth, and that maybe the truth in Laporta's head is different to what Xavi sees. And that's a very big situation and problem. I recently had in my job I'm not saying to the scale of magnitude of this, but problems like of miscommunications can happen. And that's sort of what I'm thinking. Sure. This has to go potentially down that road.
So that is the most likely scenario, that there's maybe just some miscommunication. Maybe it wasn't clear from Laporta to Xavi about what the party line is during these press conferences, about what we will and won't say. That's very possible. But let me throw a conspiracy theory at you, Buga. I almost called you Pablo. Shout out to Pablo. I love you, buddy.
Papa Pablo.
Papa Pablo. Speaking of baby Buga, of course. Let me throw a conspiracy theory at you around this whole Laporta versus Xavi fiasco. Laporta is a marketing genius. Right now, we are fading down towards the end of a trophyless season where Real Madrid is about to play for their 15th Champions League title. They have La Liga secured. What better way to maybe turn the headlines a little bit than to have this drama, this soap opera around Xavi in, Xavi out? Meanwhile, Laporta's up there just puppet master, pulling the strings, showing everybody, no, don't look here, look over there. Master of distraction, master of marketing, Joan Laporta. What do you think? Am I onto something?
No, because why would it benefit Barcelona? why would it benefit Barcelona?
Because
that's what I want to know.
You know what we're not talking about? Sorry. You know what we're not talking about while we're sitting here talking about Laporta and Xavi? We're not talking about how truly disappointing this season was. About how we went from La Liga champions, we went from potential. We just said it before we hit record. We should have been planning our trip to Wembley right now, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about Laporta versus Xavi, and that's everything. When you scroll across Twitter, nobody's talking about how Barcelona had a pretty mediocre season after being La Liga champions. We're not talking about that. We're talking about Laporta versus Xavi.
I guess that we're talking about it. That's a fair point. Now I'm asking you, why would that be beneficial in the sense of what next? What comes next? How does that not irritate your fan base a lot more? And how can that help you in the transfer market to get what you want?
I don't think it helps in the transfer market. I think the only thing is that it saves Barcelona from the headlines being couldn't hold up to Real Madrid. Essentially, it's keeping the conversation on Barcelona in-house as opposed to the comparison to Real Madrid right now, who had a fantastic season going into Champions League. So I think short term, it's just a distraction. It's smoke and mirrors. so that we're not talking about the trophyless season. We're talking about the drama, the conflict. Because here's the thing. He can make this all go away with a wave of a hand. Laporta comes out with a press conference. Hey, you guys are just talking nonsense. Xavi's my guy. He's been my guy this whole time. And it all goes away. So he's in control of this narrative, right? Laporta right now is letting these headlines linger, letting this go on. And he could end it like that if he wanted to. And I think he will when the timing makes sense, i.e., by the time the transfer market actually opens up and players are looking to come in and we want to make sure that the club is stable.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess so. It can be a mastermind plan by Laporta. I guess so. But realistically, I'm still like, what the hell is going on? What the hell is going on? What are you going to do? Because now the problem is that if you want to sack Xavi, you got to pay him like 20 million. Now he's not going to want to leave. And it's such a horrible situation to be in, realistically, because what I do not want and what I think is the worst thing that can happen for this club is that you're going to have this problem grueling in the background, and then at one moment you're going to have to find a solution, but that solution may come too late, and we might have not been able to plan with Xavi or another manager. And that preseason, that transfer window, those players, they need to start this new season fresh if we actually want to be successful with the right mindset and with the right preparation for this upcoming campaign. And right now, with the way that we're doing it, I do not feel that we're going to get to that point.
It would be an absolute disaster for Laporta to sack Xavi and pay him $20 million when Xavi was going to walk out the door for free. I could not think of a more colossal mistake by any leader of a club, call it a president, call it a GM, call it a whatever, anybody making the decisions for a club. That would be historic type of bad decision if that goes through. I think you factor that in. Plus, for me, I'm not really sold on the other options. Rafa Marquez, Hansi Flick, Thomas Tuchel. For me, none of those get me excited. I still don't know what Hansi Flick has done to get everybody so hyped about him potentially coming to Barcelona. And Thomas Tuchel,
I still
just finished what, third for Bayern. Tell me why. Sell me on Hansi Flick, because I feel like it's unproven, if anything.
How come he's the only other person to win a sextuple? I don't know how you call it.
Sextuple, yeah.
Sextuple, yeah.
Sure.
That's the only person. That's the only other guy to have done it. I feel that has to take some merit. I think that his Bayern Munich team played absolutely incredible. I really do think that. I think that he got the best out of white players in those systems, and I think that's where right now we may be lacking a little bit. I like the defense that he put up, particularly because the way that he played. Not the defense wasn't their best because they play a very high line. Individually, it's not the best, but I think that we have the players to fit to that mold as well. And what I like the most of all is that for me, the preparations of that Bayern Munich team were good in the sense that physically those players were sharp. Not those images of Goretzka being like freaking the Hulk and Coutinho. In 2 months, he was so freaking beefed up. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, well, that a bit, but the fact that you could see that these players were physically ready, to compete to the highest levels. And I think that that's a sort of approach that I want Barcelona to be in right now, because we're in a situation where we have these young players to develop. And I think that having a person that can turn them from good football players into athletes could be sort of what we need right now to compete with this modern game. I'm not saying that our style is bad or whatnot, but what we have is incredible. The foundations are the best in the world. Take it up a notch and add different things, skill sets to your skill set, and you're good to go, in my opinion.
What concerns me, because I mean, sure, fair enough. Sextuple with Bayern Munich, that is quite an achievement, right? Give him flowers on that one. But he goes to manage Germany for the 2022 World Cup, and they're eliminated in the group stage. You know what I'm saying? And that's what concerns me is, can he do what he did at Bayern Munich for a different club with a different set of players?
Mm,
That's
I guess
that's where
so.
the unproven part comes in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get you. But the Germany side, it's like, come on, that Germany side was freaking awful. The thing is that not even Nagelsmann managed to turn it around. I mean, he has managed to turn it up a bit, but I think it's just simply because of the way that sometimes you're so like in the deep end that someone needs to be sort of the one you sacrifice. Someone has to sacrifice himself. In our case, Kike Setien was the freaking martyr for everything, or Ronald
Cow
Koeman, stuff
farmer.
like that. So I feel that
Yeah.
that it makes sense. I just want to think now that for me, the one it has to be for me either Hansi Flick or Thomas Tuchel. Why do I say that? Because for me, I keep stressing this point is that whoever manager comes in, they need to have a little bit of respect won. We know that the Servi has left Brighton. He's not going to continue past this season. There's no point in bringing someone like him in because immediately
Mm-hmm.
he's gonna get destroyed, devoured by the media here in this country. So that's for me one issue. You need to at least have won some sort of respect, something to your name. And for me, when I look at it, you have Thomas Tuchel, who's a very good coach in terms of the Champions League, the sort of missing point that Barcelona have right now. That could be a reason why sort of Barcelona is inclining to go maybe there. You take a look at what
Yeah.
he's done with Chelsea at that point. Right now, another thing that I'm looking at is that I want a coach that can do better with the players that we have, and maybe even players that before, because Pablo has been saying it once every single episode. This team is a very good squad on paper. Even someone
Sure.
like a Ferran
Sure.
Torres, even someone like a Vitor Roque, even someone like a Joao Felix. I don't know if he may stay or go. You take a look at someone like uh you know what I mean, like players like that who need to show up a little bit more. We need someone to get the best out of them right now because we are sort of getting a player we're sort of acting like Barcelona of old, where we could just go and get any manager in the world that we wanted and he's gonna build us and continue and he's gonna bring a project. I'm thinking at it right now and I'm looking at sort of Chelsea, and I'm looking at which manager can get the best out of these young players and build a team. Pochettino, in around a very long time, with incredible amounts of money, but still very young, unproven players. This Chelsea team sits now in sixth. They finished the season sixth, right? So it's
Sorry,
like
Pablo.
I mean, it's insane when you think about it. At the start of the season, you never thought they were going to get in European positions. So fair play to them. That's what I mean. Right now, I take a look at this team and I want someone to build with what we've got because they're not going to get that much help financially. They're not going to get transfers. They're not going to bring in the players that they want. What do we have right now? Because what we have is really good. How can we build from it? How can we do something about it? I think
Sure.
Xavi sort of wants different players, and I'm okay with it. But one or two, it's all you're gonna get, not more.
Yeah. Yeah. On next week's episode, little teaser, we're going to be getting into who should Barcelona keep, loan, and sell. And I think we can maybe come up with a little tally, maybe use their players' estimated value, see what we can come up with. And we'll go off of the assumption that Barcelona can get to a 1-to-1 in terms of sell and buy. What's coming in and what's coming out, because right now we're still not even at that point officially yet. So
No.
that's coming up next week. We'll have Pablo back. La Liga action is all on Saturday. Am I right? Yeah, Saturday is the last
But what
match.
we should do? That's the thing.
Hmm?
What we should do? Like
Yes.
we talked about Xavi and Laporta before moving to the next point. What should we
Mm-hmm.
do? Like what are you now? What should happen?
You mean for Barcelona?
Yeah, like Xavi's gonna stay or Xavi's gonna leave.
I think Xavi stays again because we can't afford that $20 million loss. It'd be beyond silly. It would be beyond silly to
Then
sack Xavi right now.
what the freaks just happened? Like why did we just went in a crazy crazy like turmoil? Why is the fan chanting Xavi yes, Laporta no? What is going on in this team right now? Because I don't
I'm
think
telling you,
it's
it's a lack of trust with Laporta right now. I think the
yeah.
supporters are behind Xavi, and Laporta is a politician, right? I told you he is focused on the marketing. He's focusing on the image, the brand of Barcelona. That's what he's concerned about. He's less concerned about the football, more concerned about the image of Barcelona. And that to me breeds mistrust. And particularly for those diehard fans, the socios, they're not going to get behind somebody that cares more about how the world sees Barcelona versus how Barcelona actually performs on the pitch.
You think it's more important to them how we look to the world?
I think for Laporta, yes, because
Yeah.
if you think about Laporta and what he's responsible for is growing the club. Now, you can do that through winning trophies, or you can do that through clever marketing, right? I should have said and or. You can do both. But if you look at some of the decisions that he makes around the players that he brings in, when he brings them in, some of the things in terms of when he renews some of the player contracts, it's all very cleverly timed in terms of dictating what the headlines are for Barcelona. And throughout this entire time of this financial crisis, he has done to his credit, a masterful job of keeping the image afloat, of bringing in these youngsters and making sure that they're the face of Barcelona, making sure that the transition away from Lionel Messi doesn't have as much sting as it could by grabbing Gavi and Pedri and Balde and now Lamine Yamal and saying, nope, we've got a bright future, everybody, and just shining things and angling things a certain way to make sure that Barcelona again maintains that image.
Yeah, I guess so. The problem thing, the problem now is I cannot see a situation where both of them can continue working like a piece, you know?
Really? You think it's done? You think that the divorce is inevitable?
I don't know, dude. I don't know. Like something has to be like Laporta. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm gonna give you Subimendi, or it's gonna be like, you know what, we can work, I can continue, but it's like I'm not gonna listen to you. You know, something like a shot. Like there has been situations where, for instance, managers just they don't care about the board. You know, at some points, I think
Sure.
something like that could happen.
I don't know. Well, let's talk about one of the pain points that they're having. Apparently, Vitor Roque, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was Laporta's guy to bring in, again, a headline grabber, young Brazilian teenager doing well down in the Brazilian league. Barcelona bring him in early in January. Could have waited until this summer, but brought him in early. Apparently, that was not what Xavi wanted, not where he wanted to put that money. Vitor Roque has not been playing. Recent headlines saying his agent is not happy and he doesn't want a loan from Barcelona. He wants to be sold. Where are you at with Vitor Roque and what Barcelona should do with them? Because, like I said, that is one of the pain points between Laporta and Xavi right now.
When I more think about it, I look at Laporta and what Xavi, and it's like Laporta has brought in Vitor Roque. Laporta has brought in Joao Felix. Xavi didn't want these players. It's a fact. He didn't want both of them, Vitor Roque in this case. And the problem is that Laporta has done this, like you say, like a marketing genius. And he's mad because Xavi, it's like he's not responding to it. Like Xavi sees straight through the shit, the business, straight through it.
Uh-huh.
And he read between the lines and he's like, Vitor Roque is not ready for this, and that. He doesn't fit to this. That's what he thinks. He's a manager and he's not giving his hand to bend for anything of what Laporta is saying. And Laporta doesn't like that. In the terms of Vitor Roque in itself, the problem is that it's easier to point the finger at Xavi and to change that rather than to change the whole Laporta situation, because I do think that Vitor Roque should play in certain instances. Like we do need to see some sort of rotation for these players. We do need to see him incorporated. Of course, if I'm the manager and I do not want this player, it makes a lot of sense. But at the end of the day, you are still another worker of the team, and I think that you need to sort of I was going to say prioritize the results, but I guess that when you prioritize the results, you do what you think is best. So it's a very
Yeah.
difficult and delicate situation. I gotta admit, it really is.
Yeah.
But I do think that maybe he needed to play a bit more. I do think that Xavi's certain decisions are not the best. I think that that's one of them, and I also do think that that's why Laporta is sort of really mad at him right now, because and I'm sort of really mad at it as well. I'm gonna be honest, because
Oh yeah.
this is what we got. Like, this is, if those are the rules by the game, if those are the rules of the game, sometimes you just gotta play by the rules. Like, I'm a manager here. I'm not gonna change anything. I'm just gonna change by the rule. I'm just gonna play by the rules, because at the end of the day, Xavi will always have the support of the Barcelona fan base. The guy won multiple Champions League for us. He was the captain of our team. He gives one of the best displays I've ever seen in El Clásico. He has things in history in his back pocket that Laporta doesn't have. So I wouldn't be mad about it. I really wouldn't be mad about it. That's where I think it is, and I don't know. Like, the thing is that, when does Laporta's reign end? Do you know?
I'm pretty sure there's an election coming up this fall, right? Or is it next year?
I'm not too sure, but that's what I mean. Like, if he's Laporta's guy and he's gonna stay with it for the rest of it, if I'm Xavi, I'm thinking maybe that I play by the rules, and then who knows? Like, maybe you can come in and continue. I'm thinking that Laporta, after everything that has happened, I'm not sure that he's gonna stay in the presidency longer. I really do think that people are gonna be like, let's try something different. Let's try something new. We brought in Laporta because he's an incredible job to put us where we are, but I don't know. I also feel that Laporta might be thinking, I'm losing the support here, and he's sort of, he's throwing his toys out the pram.
Yeah.
Where are you with all of this?
Granted, it would have been nice if Vitor had more opportunities, but I do think we have a crowded front line with Lamine, Lewandowski, Rafinha, Ferran Torres, João Felix, Marquis popped in there for a little bit, right? So it's crowded. With the little that I've seen of Vitor Roque, he, to me, looks uncomfortable. He looks like a deer on ice. Like, every time he gets on the ball, he's off balance. His movement is spastic, and he ends up falling. Like, every shot, every pass, he's sliding because he's so unsettled. That's how I would describe him. Unsettled. And again, understandable, moving from South America to Europe, moving to a big club with a spotlight on you because you were kind of the big January transfer. You're supposed to be coming in and putting pressure on Lewandowski. All of a sudden, Lewandowski starts playing well, starts hitting his stride, and, Vitor never really had a chance to get settled in. He did score his 1 or 2 goals there early on, where it was right place, right time. He was able to finish. But in terms of beating players one-on-one, in terms of linking up and getting some 1-2 touches and collaborating, building that chemistry with the other players, I haven't seen any of that. And I think that's what Xavi is noticing, and that's why he's saying, listen, you're not going to get that playing time on the pitch, because you got to think it's probably the same thing in the training leading up to these matches, right? If Vitor Roque was lighting things up midweek during training, I think he would get the opportunities on the pitch, but it hasn't been the case.
Yeah, the thing also is that when you take a look at it, and I'm going to be completely honest, like, the problem is that Laporta dug he dug this hole himself. Like, because that's his problem. He's the one that accepted and green-lighted a 48 possible max, like, $1 million move for Vitor Roque. So it's like, that's on you. That's, if he's not performing, like, if he's not performing that, it's fair. But your expectations are here. What the player can give is here. So that's a sort of, I just made a signal with my hands for all you audio listeners. I mean, like Laporta's were super. Oh, he was expecting way more, and he received way less, and
Yeah.
that is something that cannot fall on Xavi for it. Xavi doesn't have the blame for it for doing those things. But yeah, like that's where I'm at. Like Laporta has made these decisions. He may have made these mistakes or whatever how you want to call them. But then what I would give Xavi proud of is that yeah, he's not falling for it. But is that the best for the club? Is it the best for Xavi? Is it the best for our club's interest that Xavi is not like folding for Laporta's requests? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Well, I don't think anybody can argue that Xavi is not looking out for what's best for the club. If you look at the number of players that he's brought up and given time to, Fermin, Lamine, Ubarsi in particular, and then rewind to last year with Pedri and Gavi, right? He is looking at these youngsters and he is looking to play the players that are giving him a reason to put him in the starting 11, or giving them a reason to get time off the bench. I do trust in Xavi's judgment and assessment of these players. And that's where, I mean, come on now. If you got Laporta and you got Xavi, whose judgment are you going to trust more when it comes down to who's going to have an impact on the pitch? I think you're a little bit crazy if you say, yeah, Joan Laporta has a better sense of who's going to do well for Barcelona than Xavi.
exactly. That's what I made the X.
Yep. When you break it down like that, right? And I'm just kind of thinking out loud. This is the first time I'm kind of processing it that way. When it comes down to it, and I think this is true in most cases when you look at president or GM versus the manager, it's never made sense to me why a president or a GM would not back the manager for who they want to bring in, unless it's a, hey, we can't afford that player type of situation, or, hey, that's not a player that we can invest in, or that's not a smart investment, for our club. I could see that if it's a financial disagreement. But in terms of talent and what you're looking for characteristics, it doesn't make any sense for why Laporta would have say over Xavi.
Yeah, the thing is that also for situations like Vitor Roque, it's like, okay, we're gonna spend 48 million on him, but it's like it's installments, and I think it's like crazy numbers of installments. So stuff like that, like deals like that were made by Laporta. He's not stupid. He has a lot of ways to get around it, and that's how we are gonna save a lot of money in the short term, and that's sort of what we need potentially. But that's the thing, like there are two people with different point of views. You have the people like Xavi who has to look out for the short-term quality and success of the club, and then you have Laporta who looks at the numbers and looks at the long-term viability of running Barcelona. And those are two very different things. And I believe that you need to align in those. And when I look at it, what do you want? I ask you this, John. Would you align more with the short-term success of this club or the long-term success of this club?
Right now, I'm going long-term. It's a bitter pill to swallow for Barcelona supporters, but we just need to have way more patience than what we walked into this campaign with. Again, won La Liga last year. Fantastic. This year, we got out of the group stage in Champions League. That's kind of the highlight of our season. Otherwise, it's a bit of a step backwards beyond that. And we need 2-3 more seasons for these youngsters to develop, for Barcelona to get their finances in order, and then we can look at doing something. I'm looking at, what is it, summer of 2026 when Haaland gets to leave City for free. I'm looking towards that. These next couple of seasons for Barcelona, I think we really have to sort of control our expectations and manage our emotions and how we react to the results for these next couple of seasons, because we're not there yet. So I think we do have to make sure that we're looking at the long term and not burning too many resources trying to win now, when for me it's beyond the reach of Barcelona.
Yeah, and another thing is that when you take a look at this team and the way that we look at the future and that, it's like, I think people believe that when we talk about this, it's like, oh, we are expecting not to win La Liga for the next 3 seasons. That's one thing, but I'm not expecting, what I am expecting is Barcelona to compete.
Sure.
You can compete
Sure.
and not be at the level of where we want to be, which is like a Manchester City, a Liverpool, teams that are run that, a Real Madrid, teams that are run that way.
Mm-hmm.
But you still can compete. You still can compete. You can still put some sort of good image out there when you play. And Barcelona with this squad should be able to win La Liga. Should be able to win La Liga. Like that's
Should
one
be able
that's
to win La
should
Liga.
win able
Yeah.
to win La Liga. That's because in terms of squad and numbers, they are the second best team in the La Liga. And if you only have to beat that team twice or once,
Mhm.
who knows? So they should be able to beat La Liga, to win La Liga. So yes, that's where I'm at. But people get over excited a bit when it comes to consistency and all of that. Sometimes people just look at the results and are happy, and you don't realize what's beneath. So
Yeah.
that's where I'm at with it. So this club, I'm happy because I'm not gonna have heart attacks and panic strokes and anything, anxiety attacks for the next like 2 months.
Yeah, until you fall in love with some random European team for the Euros and get on that bandwagon. Who's it going to be, do you think?
Now this year I'm going simple. I'm
Yeah,
going with my big dog, and that big dog that I want to win is Germany. I don't know why.
Germany. I don't
Yeah,
know why
because
either.
because I told you I want Florian Wirtz to win the Ballon d'Or.
Okay, all right, okay, yeah. No, I
and then
think.
the
Go ahead.
huh? And then the other team that maybe I want something to do in the Euros is that I don't know. I want like a Hungary or something like that to do something.
Shh, nah, not happening. I think. I don't know. I think Portugal are favorites for me going into it. I
Hmm.
think if everything goes according to plan for them, they've got such massive talent and a deep squad. I think it's going to be Portugal, but we'll maybe talk about that in a couple episodes from now, because we are going to, like I said, we got one more next Sunday after La Liga wraps up, and then we're going to take a little bit of a break. We'll do our I guess we'll call it our summer schedule. We'll be doing one a month for June, July, and then we'll be back doing one for August, and then we'll pick up
But we should do an
when the
episode,
season
maybe
starts
just call
again.
it a bonus episode if it's somehow in the Copa America Peru faces off against United States.
Okay, we'll do it. Maybe we'll do a little watch along too. Bow, bow,
Ooh.
bow. The first on
You're
the
gonna
channel.
cry the penalties.
Don't you talk to me like that.
When
Don't talk to
Weston
me like
McKennie skies up rockets the
that.
ball and it goes flying into Jupiter's.
I would talk shit about your team, but I couldn't name you a single Peruvian player. So
Try.
sorry. I was trying to think of even an older one from like 2006.
Just think of any like
um,
Spanish last name, and maybe was a player somehow.
Sanchez.
Yes,
Yep,
yeah,
nailed it.
Bujara Sanchez.
Oscar Sanchez. Anyway, a couple more points I wanna touch on. One being Xavi Simons. This episode should just be titled Xavi, and everyone can figure out which
Yes.
Xavi we're talking about. But Xavi Simons reportedly interested in a return to Barcelona on loan, because we can't afford to buy him right now. Are you on board with this? If you're Laporta, if you're Xavi, are you greenlighting this move to get Xavi Simons back at Barcelona? Does he bring anything different than what we already have?
This kid is special. This kid has to come to Barcelona 100%. For me, he's
Wow.
the guy. He's really good. The problem is that where does he play? I look at him and he would be a player that I would bring in and play as a false nine, no Lewandowski. That's the sort of player that you have in your hands, because I don't see him playing as a left winger. I mean, he can play there, a right winger as well. If he comes, that's probably where he's going to play. But for me, he's this sort of player where you can bring on a loan that right now doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that he has more future than someone like a Joao Felix, for instance. I think that we having an X factor sort of player, I still like that. Like Joao Felix has won us many games this year.
Sure.
I'm not against keeping Joao Felix by alone, maybe another loan. Like if it's here Xavi Simons or Joao Felix alone, I would take Xavi Simons. But if it's not him, I'm fine keeping Joao Felix on the loan. That's a sort of player that I think we still need. We don't have that sort of level of quality in our squad. We only have some certain players that can do the things that they can do, like I would say Pedri to that list. Even someone's Lamine Yamal. Even if we bring in someone like a Nico Williams, he doesn't have that X factor. You know that I mean? Like what we saw Joao Felix do today against, I even forgot who we were playing, against Rayo Vallecano. That's the sort of things that Xavi Simons can bring to the team. I would like to have him. I'm just not sure where he would play. That has me a little bit worried. But when I look at the future of Barcelona and I look like we sell Lewandowski, for instance, and if you really want to go with a sort of Messi-esque 2011 team, sure, go ahead and you can have someone like Xavi Simons play that role. That's a sort of future that I think we could build with a player like him. But if it's only on a loan, then what happens? You know, I'm not against it. If you can bring him in, bring him in. Give him number 14 as well.
Wow. Okay. I wasn't expecting you to be so sold on it. I've got some hesitations just because of something that you mentioned towards the end there. Where exactly does he fit in? I think I've seen too many players at this point, talented players come in that don't really have a place in Barcelona's system, and we try to fit them. You know, maybe we get an attacking midfielder and push them out to the wing. Maybe we ask them to be more of a box-to-box midfielder instead of just attacking. Like we try different things. I'm thinking of Coutinho. I'm thinking of Griezmann even. You know, it's hard for players to play the role that's needed for Barcelona if they don't fit that specifically. And I am getting a little bit impatient with Barcelona buying players, bringing players in on loan that we know we're going to have to play out of position. It's getting a little bit frustrating.
Yeah, I get you. I have my thoughts on that. I want to do a video with you about like flops on that because I think we have some certain disagreements there. I think it would be nice. But I agree with you. The one thing that bothers me is that we most of the time tend to buy players, don't give them time, let them go. That's something that pains me to see. Second is that we buy players in positions that we already got, and we don't understand. We do not tend to understand the player that we're buying. That's another problem that I see from this scouting team or whatever Barcelona has at this stage. I feel that that's a real issue. Like for instance, Joshua Kimmich at the number 5. Like he's not.
He's a German De Jong.
Just because he's a CDM in FIFA doesn't mean he can play a number 5 in real life. You know, like you take a look at the team, and for instance, in the Hansi Flick's team, he played right back. In now with Thomas Tuchel, he's playing right back again, and you have a defensive DM. Like I mean, it's different, but the guy who defends in that team is Konrad Leimer. Like it's different. It's a different thing, different roles. He's gonna be very similar to De Jong. Like for me,
he's the German De Jong. He really is.
If you want to play that way, like I'm not against. I'm still a guy who believes that we can play De Jong, Pedri, and Gavi together. That would be my midfield. Like I'm still a guy who can think that because I think De Jong can play a CDM role, and we can if our press is really as good as the first season, the second season with Xavi when we won the league, I think we can win. We can win stuff. We can play very good and play teams out the park. If you want Subimendi to be a Busquets and that, sure, fine. But Kimmich is not that. And people saying that time and time again, bro, what you're smoking? He's not the sort of player.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm in full agreement on that. So I think we'll have the debates around what Barcelona's midfield is going to look like, because it is going to be interesting now with the rise of Fermin Lopez. I think his stock continues to rise. I think he's playing incredible football right now. And I'll say today, yes, I'm still going the young Pedri, Gavi as my preferred 3, but I don't know. It almost makes me want to go with a midfield 4 and have Fermin in there. But either way, I like having the options that we have. Again, you throw in Bundo in there, and all of a sudden our midfield has some depth to it as well. But But
should Fermin have a shout to go to the Euros?
I would want to take a look at Spain's midfield overall and see if his characteristics are needed there. But I mean, no
he's
Gavi.
Everything Coutinho should have been.
I know. We've said that before. It stinks.
Although Coutinho, the other day I was watching highlights of him at Liverpool, he was a baller. Like he was a real baller. Like he was a baller, dude. He was so good. We just didn't know how to use him. We just didn't know how to use him.
Agreed.
The best,
and that's what I'm saying.
I'm gonna throw a hot take. The best person to get the best out of Coutinho, I kid you not, is Ronald Koeman. First game against Villarreal, the kid bowled. Coutinho was amazing in that game against Villarreal. First game, I remember completely. We played 4-2-3-1. Ansu Fati on the left, Coutinho as a number 10. That combination was deadly.
Yeah, I will get so much hate for this, but I'll say this: Barcelona made a mistake in firing Ronald Koeman. I think this was Laporta putting pressure on Koeman to play, quote, Barcelona football instead of letting Koeman implement his style, which was that 4-2-3-1, which was a 3-5-2 at times. That was working for Barcelona. That's what won us the Copa del Rey. Laporta said, okay, you know what? Just get the trophy. You want to do it your way? Go ahead. Just get the trophy. But in La Liga, you're going to play 4-3-3. And at the end of the day, that was the major conflict. Was Laporta wants the traditional Barcelona 4-3-3. He doesn't want to see any twists, any variations, even though Xavi's gotten away with it a little bit here and there. Laporta wants that classic Barcelona, right? The two winger system, the overlapping fullbacks. That's what he wants to see. From my perspective, with where Barcelona are and the modern game, I think Barcelona made a mistake in letting Koeman go. I think they should have let him implement his brand of football. We would have kept Griezmann. We would have kept Coutinho. Dembele maybe would have turned out differently. Just saying, let the hate come in on the comments, but Barcelona sacking Koeman was a mistake.
I agree with you as well. I think that I think we could have done that situation much better. I think we cut ties on it way too soon, and I think that's something. If you play your cards right, you could have made Dembele, Coutinho, and Griezmann all work. I really do think that. I really do think that. And just to, I think, is there any point else that we have to talk about, or can I start wrapping it up?
Just we gotta just mention new contract for Pau Cubarsí. Goes until 2027 now.
Baller.
500 million euro buyout. I'm a little bit surprised it wasn't the cool 1 billion we've been seeing from some of these La Masia players coming up. Good deal for Barcelona. Any concerns that somebody's going to hit that buyout clause sometime before 2027?
Not really. I think that Cubarsí is one of those players that it's safe with us because he's a sort of player that I'm going to be honest. This might anger a lot of people. I don't think he could be as good as he is without Barcelona. I think he's one of those players, like one of those players that he needs Barcelona as much as Barcelona needs him because he just fits the
perfect
mold
for the system
because of what a center back actually is for Barcelona. I think that's something that is very good, like that's why I think he's so special for us.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't think we're in any danger of losing him with that buyout, with his loyalty to Barcelona being a La Masia player, of course. I think it's great news for Barcelona. Again, interesting timing with that contract being signed and influencing the headlines. But we've talked about that. So again, next week, we'll be doing a season wrap-up. Very excited. All three of us, we've been very sporadic. It's been hard to get all three of us in the studio together, but we will have all three of us next week. Ugo, you were going to share some thoughts before we wrap up.
I already forgot. I'm thinking about one thing, and I'm looking at I have a picture of Fermin Lopez here on my second screen right now, and I'm like, I want a shirt with number 16 on the back so much.
If he goes to Euros with Spain, you're gonna get a España kit.
100%, I'll get a shirt
with Fermin.
Yeah, I wanted a
Spain typically has some. Yeah.
If he doesn't go, I'll take Lamine Jamal shirt number 17.
Yeah,
number 19.
I mean, Spain Spain has some pretty sick kits. I don't remember what their Euro kit looks like off the top of my head, but I know that they have some pretty sick kits.
Oh, I actually remember what I was going to say. I was going to say Barcelona should take a piece out of the playbook from Xavi Alonso. That's all I'm saying. I think I still believe for a very long time people do think that playing with a back five, back three, whatever, it's dumb.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm thinking Barcelona, the best Barcelona I've seen in a while, the most solid ones have been when we play that way. And even Xavi last season, that's sort of what he back was a back, the BAC Balde Araujo Christensen Kunde. Yeah. That's a fake myth because Balde almost played as a left winger. It was really the ACK. And
that's what I mean by Xavi getting away with these formation changes a little bit more, because like he can say on paper it's a 4-3-3, but in action when Barcelona are in possession, they're not lining up in a 4-3-3. Excuse me, sneezing. You. Sorry, allergic to not getting trophies, I guess. My goodness. Anyway, we'll be back next week, like we said, with John, Buga, and Pablo. One more episode to wrap up the season. We'll be talking, what do we have on our list? Players that we're going to keep, sell, and loan. We're going to give out our most awards for most improved player, most underrated player. We'll talk about top defender, midfielder, and forward. I'm sure some other things will pop up there as we get into things. So one more time, make sure you subscribe, participate in the conversation. That's what we're trying to do here, build out this community on the Mes Que channels. So wherever you're watching, Spotify, YouTube, if you're watching any of our clips on Reels or TikTok or wherever you're finding us, we appreciate the support. We appreciate the engagement. Let us know your thoughts. Give us some questions to respond to. And we'll see you next week right here on Mes Que Un Podcast.
See you, people. Bye.